Hello friends, in this video lecture we are going to learn about special senses. We have 5 special senses called visual senses, sense of vision, sense of olfaction, sense of taste are called as gustation, hearing and equilibrium, and sense of touch. And now we are going to study about those senses and sense organs associated with them. First we'll study about sense of olfaction. Sense of olfaction or sense of smell, this olfaction which has a sense organ called as olfactory epithelium, which has hundred millions of receptors within an area, and this olfactory epithelium occupies the superior part of the nasal cavity, and it consists of 3 kinds of cells: olfactory receptor cells, supporting cells, and basal cells. And these cells are responded to chemical stimulus which initiates the olfactory response. The supporting cells, which helps in the production of mucus, which are present in the mucous lining, helps in the physical support and nourishment to the receptors. Whereas the basal cells, which undergo cell division and produces new olfactory receptors. And the olfactory glands are the Bowman's glands, which produces mucus in the olfactory epithelium. So here we can see the olfactory bulb, which gives us the receptor cells. So these are the olfactory receptor cells, and these are the basal cells, and these are the supporting cells, and these are Bowman's glands. Next one is olfactory pathway. Olfactory pathway is the right and left nerves, olfactory nerves, and it consists of olfactory bulbs from which olfactory sensations will be led to the primary olfactory area of the brain, and it projects to the limbic system and hypothalamus. Gustation. Gustation is nothing but sense of taste, which consists of 5 basic tastes. They are sour, sweet, bitter, salt, and umami. And all the flavors are the combination of primary taste and the olfactory and tactile sensations present in the nose and tongue. And the receptors, which consists of taste receptors, which are located in taste buds. There are nearly 10,000 taste buds are present in the soft palate, tongue, pharynx, and epiglottis, etc. And they decrease the number by age. And each taste bud consisting of 3 kinds of epithelial cells. They are usually supporting cells, gustatory cells, and receptor cells. Gustatory receptor cells and basal cells. Supporting cells, which consists of microvilli and gustatory receptor, whereas the gustatory hair projects from the gustatory receptor cell, extends out through a pore called as taste pore, and the basal cells, which helps in the produces the supporting cells that develop into gustatory cells in the later. So here we can see the taste buds and taste receptors. And the taste buds are of 4 types. They contains circular valate papillae, fungiform papillae, foliate papillae, and filiform papillae. Circular valate papillae are innervated V-shaped structures present at the back of the tongue. Fungiform papillae are present at the entire surface of the tongue, and which contains about 5 taste buds, 5 taste buds each. And foliate papillae, which are present in the small trenches on the lateral sides, and filiform papillae, which consists of tactile receptors and doesn't have any sort of taste buds, and also helps in the recognition of food in the oral cavity position and oral cavity. And 3 cranial nerves, which helps in the gustatory pathway. They are facial nerves, glossopharyngeal nerves, and vagus nerves. Eyelids. Coming to the next sensation, sense is eye, which consists of lower eyelids called as upper and lower eyelids called as palpebrae, which products from the excessive light and foreign objects, and also helps in the lubrication of eyeballs. The upper eyelids are more movable than the lower one because of the presence of levator palpebrae superioris muscle, and the space between upper and lower eyelids are called as palpebral fissure. And the lacrimal caruncle, which consists of sebaceous glands and ceteris sweat glands present in the corner of the eye. Tarsal plate, which is a thick plate with thick fold of the connective tissue, which supports the eyelids in the inside of the eye. And the tarsal plate or tarsal plate or meibomian glands which secretes a fluid which helps in the prevention of attachment of eyelids together. Conjunctiva is a thin layer of non-keratinized stratus columnar epithelium with goblet cells present in the eyelids and even on the eye. So that is present. The layer that is present in the eyelids are called as palpebral conjunctiva, and that is present on the eyeball is called as bulbar conjunctiva. And the infection caused to it leads to a disease. I mean, a condition called as conjunctivitis. Eyelashes. The eyelashes form. The eyelashes help protect the eyeballs from foreign objects, and perspiration, and directs the sun. And directs the direct rays of sun. And it consists of sebaceous glands and the hair follicles, which helps in the lubricates the fluid into the follicles. And when there is an infection to these glands, causes a pus-filled swelling called as stye. Lacrimal apparatus. Here we can see lacrimal apparatus. Lacrimal apparatus consists of lacrimal glands, and these lacrimal glands which are attached to the lacrimal ducts, which are open to the palpebral muscles, lower and upper eyelids, and this fluids which moves to the lacrimal caruncle, and the lacrimal caruncle which has two openings called as lacrimal ducts or lacrimal canals, which opens into lacrimal sac and then into nasolacrimal duct or nasolacrimal duct. And the anatomy of eyeball has two layers: fibrous tunic and vascular tunic. Fibrous tunic, which is outermost dense collagenous connective tissue layer, which forms the sclera, the white part of the eye, and the anterior surface of the sclera, which is transparent, which becomes cornea. Both the sclera and cornea consist of dense collagenous connective tissue, which forms the fibrous tunic, and inside there is a colored layer called as iris, which allows the light into the interior of the eye. Here we can see the white part is called as sclera. And coming to the vascular tunic, which consists of three parts: choroid, ciliary body, and iris. Choroid is a highly vascularized structure which provides nutrients to the surface of retina. And choroid, which is also consists of melanocytes, which has melanin, which absorbs the more amount of stray light, which is within the eyeball. And the choroid, anteriorly the choroid, which has a ciliary body, and the ciliary body consists of ciliary process and ciliary muscles. Ciliary process, which consists of blood capillaries, which secretes the aqueous humor in the both anterior and posterior chambers. The extending to the ciliary process is called as zona fibularis, which has suspensory ligaments which attaches the lens. The ciliary muscles helps in the movement of lens. Iris is the colored portion of the eyeball, and its opening is called as pupil, which consists of muscles called as sphincter pupillae and dilator pupillae. And the circumference of the sphincter pupillae projects like spokes of a wheel toward the base of iris. A principal function of the iris, which is to regulate the amount of light entering into the eyeball through pupil. Optic disc is the site where optic nerve exits. The bundled together with the optic nerve are the central retinal artery, a branch of ophthalmic artery, and the central retinal vein. The retina, which consists of a pigmented layer or a neural layer. The pigmented layer, which consists of melanin containing epithelial cells, which helps in the absorption of stray light. So here we can see this is the macula lutea, which is the high precision part. This is the optical disc, which are also called as blind spot. And this is the retina, and this is the choroid, and this one is sclera, and this is canal of Schlemm, and this is cornea, lens, And the next one is sensory layer of the retina. Retina, which consists of a photoreceptor layer, bipolar cell layer, and the ganglionic cell layer. They are separated into two zones, outer and inner synaptic layers. Light passes through the ganglionic layer and the bipolar layer onto the photoreceptor layer. Photoreceptor layer, which consists of rods and cones. Rods helps us to see in dim light, whereas the bright light is stimulated the cones, which gives color vision. Macula lutea is the exact center where we have a visual axis falls on it and gives maximum vision, which consists of cones, which has high resolution or high visual acuity. The optic disc is also called as blind spot, where we cannot see any sort of image when it falls on there. Lens, which consists of a protein called as lens, which is formed by means of a protein called as crystallins, which are arranged in a layers like onions. And the interior of the eye, the lens which separates the cavity chamber into two regions, anterior and posterior. Anterior cavity, which is present in the cornea and lens, which forms the aqueous humor, and the anterior chamber lies between cornea and the iris, and the posterior chamber lies behind the iris and front of the jugular fibers of the lens. Aqueous humor is the filtered blood capillary, filters that out of the blood capillaries and forms the fluid inside the eyeball. Visual pathway, which consists of millions of photoreceptors, which consists of rods and cones, which produces some sort of neurotransmitters like glutamate, and which helps in the stimulation of ganglionic cells, and they passes through the optic chiasm or optic tract, and then they enter into the primary visual area of the optic region, occipital lobe. So here this is the left eye, right eye, and they passes through optic chiasm and shares both the information to the optic nuclei present in the thalamus, and then to both the hemispheres of the cerebrum. Coming to the equilibrium, hearing or equilibrium. Anatomy of the ear, or a ear which consists of three parts, or 3 ears: external ear, middle ear, and internal ear. External ear helps in the collection of sound waves, whereas the middle ear conducts the sound waves to internal ear, and internal ear which initiates the hearing impulses. The external ear consists of ear pinna, auditory canal, and tympanic membrane, and an elevation called as umbo. Here we can see the structures of ear. This is the ear pinna, and this is the internal ear, and this is the tympanic membrane. So there is and it consists of glands called as cerebrinous glands, which produces wax-like structure, wax-like substance, which helps in the trapping of foreign substances, dust, etc. Coming to the middle ear consists of ossicles called as smallest bones of our body, and the three ossicles called malleus, incus, and stapes, which is articulated with another and produces sound waves to the footplate or vowel window at the cochlea. And the middle ear, which consists of muscles, tympanic muscle, stapedius muscle, and auditory tube, and these muscles helps in the movement of eardrum and the ossicles, and the auditory tube also called as eustachian tube, which helps in the maintenance of pressure inside the ear. And internal ear, which consists of two parts, bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth. Bony labyrinth, which covers the membranous labyrinth which covers the sensory organ like organ of Corti and vestibule. So it consists of three main parts: semicircular canals, vestibule, and the cochlea. So here we can see the vestibule, the semicircular canals, vestibule, and the cochlea. And cochlea is a bony spiral canal which is divided into three canals: cochlear duct, cochlear duct or scala media, scala vestibuli, and scala tympani. The vestibular membrane separates the cochlear duct from scala vestibuli and basilar membrane. And the basilar membrane, which consists of organ of Corti, which helps in the hearing. When the tape vibrates, it vibrates the oval window, and the initiates the movement of pressure inside the scala vestibuli, and the scala vestibuli is transmitted to scala tympani and finally to the round oval window. The pressure waves present in the endolymph vibrates the tectoral membrane present on the organ of Corti, which opens the cerocelia present in the hair-like structures of organ of Corti, initiates the nerve impulse and gives us auditory sense. Mechanism of equilibrium: vestibule, which maintains the equilibrium. There are two types of equilibrium: static equilibrium and dynamic equilibrium. The static equilibrium is the equilibrium or the balance produced by our body during the static condition or stable condition. The dynamic condition is nothing but the movement. During movement we can maintain our balance, or during walking we can maintain our balance. It is because of our dynamic balance. And the vestibule consists of three elevated parts called as saccule, atrial and semicircular canals. And otolithic organs are the sensory parts of vestibule, which are present in saccule and atrial, and it consists of and it maintains the static and dynamic equilibrium. It consists of cells called hair cells and supporting cells. Hair cells on the stereocilia graded in the height, graded height, plus one kinocilium which is anchored to it, which helps in the here we can see which helps in the maintenance of a balance. Semicircular ducts, which consists of an elevated part called as ampulla, which consists of a cristae which contains hair cells and supporting cells, and it is responsible for the balance. Coming to the skin. The skin is the sensory part, largest organ in our body, which consists of receptors which helps in the sense of touch, pressure, etc. Here we can see the nerve endings, free nerve endings which helps in the temperature. Thermoreceptors, we call them as thermoreceptors. And this is a Merkel discs which helps in the this is the Merkel receptors which helps in the sense of touch, the simple touch, and cross end bulbs, which some pressurized touch or touch with force, and these are the root fluxes, and which helps in the sensing of our hair, and these are Meissner corpuscle which helps in the touch, which are present in the dermis, and Pacinian corpuscles which helps in the deep pressure, and Ruffini endings which also helps in the deepest pressure or highest pressure in the dermis. So by this I have completed the sense organs. Thank you guys, thank you for listening.